is that a sort of reaction against this sort of intermingling of the traditional religions? Or what?
I think so. You're absolutely right. I think that is definitely an offshoot of that kind. A group of people can't take it, that this is happening, and they see that happening. So that's when such factions rise. And yeah, absolutely. That's what I think.
But is that basically a Christian movement, or does it involve other religions?
For the moment, I think I might be wrong. I think primarily a Christian movement, unfortunately. So.
And we live by example. And I do think that in some sense, and it's all a process, but the world is really shrinking. You know, the communication, I mean, we can have varying opinions about the web, but there's a lot of information going there, and you do need to use discernment. I mean,
people don't believe in that. They rather believe in figures and forms of God, you know, and that too in very limited thing. And for that, here, everyone, they would say God is nowhere. God is nowhere. But really speaking, God is now here.
Very sweet. I thought you were going to spell it the other way around, Erewhon.
So that is something for us to believe, and those who believe, again, like I was talking to you about our Hindu, Indian culture and spiritualism and tradition, you know, they begin with God. They know there is a God. They believe in whichever form of God, in Ganesha, in Sai Baba, in Shiva, or any other form. But that keeps them humble. That keeps them in faith, in hope. You know, when anything really, they say, and see, it's a human instinct. Anything that goes really wrong in your life, first thing you say, oh God. That's the first expression that comes, because that comes from your heart, not from your mind. So really, even the non-believers know somewhere that there is a God. They just refuse to acknowledge it. So when I think, you know, I tell people, believe in godliness more than God himself. That will solve the problem of the world, rather than my God in your God and all. Just believe in godliness. That's the most important thing. And all religions, all scriptures basically teach the same thing. It's only a matter of interpretation and translation. And that's where these religious leaders who have made such hardline things for themselves, this is what our God says, and either you follow our religion or you should be slaughtered and all. So this gross misinterpretation should be rectified. And in today's times, I think all religious leaders of the world, scholars of the world, who are like really properly learned from the scriptures, not as they learn it, as they're supposed to know. So I think when they come together, let's say, all right, this is what Allah says, this is what Krishna says, this is what Rama says, this is what Jesus said, this is what Buddha said, and they come together and they say, hey, it's the same thing. You know, it's just that the language is different, the message is same. It's just like you can have various African music, Denmark music, a Danish music, a Chinese music, but the essence is music. The language is different, but it's music. The tune may be different, but it's still music. So I think once everyone comes to that understanding, the greatest threat that the earth faces today, terrorism, you know, the wars due to these problems, fanatic problems. And I think it's just not only because of ignorance and darkness, like we were talking of the dark age, this is the way it was supposed to be. This is the way it was supposed to be. It was written in the Vishnu Puran, in the Hindu scriptures, many thousand years ago, that in this dark age, people would deny God. You know, brother will kill brother. You know, people will be living in debauchery. You know, there'll be greed, there'll be anger, there'll be ego, there'll be war, there'll be destruction. But then it also said we have to overcome that in order to enter the new age. It's not, this is what it is, that's the end of it. Just like when you're sick, you go to a doctor. He does a diagnosis and gives you medicine and treatment because you want to be well again. So we want to get well from the sickness that the whole world is suffering from. And then the answer is not in these nitty-gritties of the world, because we made it so complex. So man really has to be unmade and remade with a love and compassion for a fellow human being. And like I said, that essence, that fragrance of godliness, because that godliness relates to righteousness. That relates to your conscience, to your heart, which is true. Mind is always misleading, heart is always true. And everywhere, and that's why Sai Baba has come in the world, so that he has billions of followers all over the world. So even if, maybe, let's say 1 million over here, or of that, let's say even 5,000, become good. And similarly in every country, in every state, in every community, people become. And that itself will make an ocean. That itself will this thing. And talking of the new age is the youth is with the age. So it's very important, like she said, education, human values for the children, Bal Vikas classes. The vision is for the future. The vision is for the future. But it has to be starting today. The vision of tomorrow depends on today. If you can't do it, so we have to do it. We have to pass it on to the children, and then they propagate. So we will, at the end of it, in the next few years, you will see the dawn of the new age. But it has to come through implementing these teachings and these values. That is the only way. There is no other way. There is absolutely no other way. Unless people adopt these spiritual values, because science has come to a dead end, to the wall. There is no much beyond. Man has done everything. He's gone into space, experiment with everything, with killing, with wars, with insanity, with drugs, alcohol, name it, they've done everything. There's nothing much left to do. They can't go any worse. So there is no worse an animal than a man today.
Exactly.
So now we have to go back to basics, as they say. And when we discover our true self, where we came from, when we are today, it's such a stark difference.
So, that's what I think it will change, like Dr. Kumar mentioned. I think it will change, and that change can take place only if all of us take the responsibility for it. Starts with the parents, with the teachers. It starts from your home, then it extends to the community and country and in different nations. So there has to be a beginning somewhere. And we can't just give up saying that, it's a hopeless cause. If you find terrorism on the rise, people hating each other, that's not true. There will always be a few disgruntled elements everywhere. And that's going to happen when the goodness pervades. Someone has to rise up against it. But we shouldn't give up on the goals that we have. And the goals is to make ourselves divine. I'm not talking about religion. To make ourselves divine, and the future, which lays in our kids. We have to make them stars of heaven, as we call it. God's heaven, or flowers in God's garden. So that's our responsibility, and that's where we all educators have a major role to play. We have the means to do it, so we can start it in our own. That's where I see my role, in my own small way. I don't mention Satya Sai Baba in my, when I talk to my students, but I incorporate his teachings. So they do not know exactly where this is coming from, but it's not something that I made up, but it's basically part of the whole teachings of Satya Sai Baba, which is not religion-based, but that we are all divine beings. So I kind of try to inculcate this, and it does, in my personal experiences, some of the kids are young, and it really has an impact on them. Because it has come back to me. I've seen even within a semester, I've seen the change in them. That's amazing. I tell my own son, that's my son, by the way, standing there, Janish. I tell my own son sometimes, when I can change those kids within a semester. Sometimes at home it's more challenging. They listen to you and it's amazing. They come so restless. They are all like kids, in the baccalaureate programs of high school and in that mood and not very sure what to do with their lives, but amazing how, and I didn't even realize that this really has impacted them in such a way. Until the end of the semester they come back, some of them come back to me and say, it's you. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this really works. So we have to keep trying and in our own small ways contribute to the good.